Okay. I, by name Mr. Oshoma Hayigbeni Itekpe. I'm the CEO, Distinction Tutorial Hub Limited. I am live with IDC Training Center. And this morning we'll be looking at 60 minutes secret to pass JAMB, WAEC, NECO, and any other external examinations like JAMB and the rest. I want you to understand that I've been teaching this subject, mathematics, for the past 15 years. I've been marking WAEC for the past 5 years. So I am in a position to give you the secret behind passing mathematics with ease, especially distinction. I don't believe in anything less than distinction. And that is the reason why the name of my tutorial is Distinction Tutorial Hub. And because of the fact that you must understand that JAMB questions, mathematics JAMB questions, are usually different from mathematics WAEC and NECO questions. These are the things I want you to understand today. JAMB has a reason why they say you should not use calculator. And even if you're allowed to use calculator, in some cases in JAMB, it's going to be market calculator. We call it market calculator because there are no scientific functions. Now, the reason is because the questions that comes out in JAMB when it comes to mathematics, they are usually simple questions, but very in-depth. What I mean by in-depth in the sense, what I mean by that is that they go very deep when it comes to mathematics in JAMB, but very simple questions. I will explain that as we go on. This is 60 minutes live with me. Please be very attentive. Follow this teaching because I will be looking at 2 topics. You might be wondering, why am I looking at 2 topics? I'm looking at 2 topics because in JAMB, we usually have 40 questions in mathematics and sometimes 50 questions depending on what the JAMB decided for that year. But I want to tell you something. Most of these topics in JAMB, you must understand that 60% of the topics are further mathematics, while just 40% are general mathematics. Some of us that don't even understand what to be by further maths and general maths. It is good for you to follow us on this YouTube channel as I will be explaining and trying to break it down, the topics that are further maths and the topics that are mathematics. And mind you, it is not all further mathematics questions that comes out in JAMB. There are particular topics that comes out in JAMB. Topics like like equations, topic like series and sequence, which is AP and GP. Remember, AP is arithmetic progression, which can also be referred to as linear sequence, and GP is geometric progression, which can also be referred to as exponential sequence. And you must also understand that topics like matrices, topics like integration and differentiation, which makes up calculus. Calculus is the combination of integration and differentiation. These are some of the topics that comes out in JAMB. But what they normally do is they will bring 5 questions in a topic. You see 5 questions in one topic. And that's the reason why I'm emphasizing today more on equations and sequence and series. Now, what do we mean by equations? We have 3 types of equations. But if we are to consider more of it, we'll say 4 equations. Now, what are the types of equations we have? The topic we'll be looking at now is going to be equations. Now, when we talk about equations, we have types of equations. Number 1, we have simple equation. Simple equation. Number 2, we have quadratic equation. Number 3, we have simultaneous equation. And number 4, we have polynomial equations. Let me explain. When you talk about simple equations are also referred to as linear equations. And these equations deal with one unknown variable, just one unknown variable. I'll be giving the examples as we go. Now, quadratic equations has to do with 2 unknown variables. And when we talk about simultaneous equation, it's divided into 2. Simultaneous equations are divided into 2. We have one linear simultaneous equation. One linear simultaneous equations. One linear simultaneous equation. What I mean by one linear simultaneous equation is that they are simultaneous because it's 2 equations that come together. Don't forget. One linear simultaneous equation and one quadratic. So one linear, one quadratic simultaneous equation. One linear, let me just make it one linear. Sorry. Let me make it one linear, one quadratic simultaneous equation. Then the second one, another type of simultaneous equation is 2 linear simultaneous equation. 2 linear simultaneous equation. Then in polynomials, some people want to say polynomial. You know, we know that quadratic equations fall under polynomial because polynomial simply means any equation. Polynomial equations are equations that have 2 or more degree of powers. So poly means 2. So you understand? So 2 or more. So quadratic equation can also fall into polynomial equations. But when we talk about polynomial, that's why we have a topic in furthermans called polynomials, where you divide a higher polynomial with a smaller polynomial. But what I'm saying is that polynomial equations here has to do with division of polynomial equation, where you find factor theorem, remainder theorem, and the rest of them. But that is not my focus today. My focus today is on equation. And which type of equation? Quadratic equation. Now, I want you to follow me to get this quadratic equation you see very small. It's actually small, but there are more to it. The textbooks cannot tell you that. Your teachers cannot tell you that in the class. Because when they do, you get to know the secret and you can be able to challenge them anytime. But I don't mind challenging me. And that's the reason why I am breaking this secret. I'm bringing this secret to you so that you know that in any topic in mathematics has a secret. And until you know that secret, that topic will be a problem. And because I don't want you to have any problem at all when it comes to a topic in mathematics, this is the reason why you must follow this channel. Now, just as I emphasized earlier, the topic I'm taking right now is equation, and I've given you the types of equation we have. I will not be dwelling much. I will not be talking about simple equation. I'm going straight to quadratic because simple is very simple. But at the course of my explanation, I'm going to tell you how simple equation look like. Is that clear? And before I continue, I want to put this thing in the back of your mind, that mathematics is a subject that is, in fact, is the most simplest subject on earth. And the reason why it's the most simplest subject on earth is that topics repeat themselves. Now, the topic you do in JSS1 repeats itself in SS3. The topic you do in JSS2 repeats itself in SS3. The topic you do in JSS3 repeats itself in SS3. The topic you do in SS1 repeats itself in SS3. So it's a continual thing. And that's the reason why even some topics we offer in class 5 repeat themselves in SS3. I'm going to be mentioning these topics as you follow this channel. But for today, we'll be emphasizing more on equation. And as I've given you the types of equations we have, I want to explain to you now the first one I'm going to be dealing with, which is quadratic equation. I want to tell you more about equation. Let me differentiate. First of all, I want to differentiate between expression and equation. I've seen a JAMB question that said, in the question below, in the question above, which is the term? You must know what refers to as term. You must know what refers to as constant value. You must also know what refers to as expression. Now, what is the difference between expression and equation? Let me explain. Now, when you talk about expression, as I'm cleaning the board, you must understand the meaning of term first. What is a term? A term is an algebra. We should know that equations are under algebra. Algebra in mathematics is a type of mathematics that deals with a letter and a number. Now, whenever you see a number and a letter coming together, you are referring to an algebra. And there is no equation that has not to do with a letter and a number. So that's why an equation can be classified under algebra. Now, when you talk about a term, what is the meaning of a term? A term is the combination of a number and a letter. I want you to get that. Now, a term is the combination of a letter and a number. Let me get an example. Like if we have x is a term. Do you know why? Because x has a coefficient. And what is the meaning of a coefficient? A coefficient is a constant number that stands together with a letter. Now, this is x. The coefficient of x here is 1. Though it might be invisible, but you should know that any letter that has no number standing in front, there is a constant 1. And that is the reason why x plus x give us 2x. And that is the reason why 2y minus y give us y or 1y, as the case might be. So this is a term. And now another term we have 5y is a term because the coefficient of y here is 5. And 5 multiplied by y gives 5y. Another time it can be above power 1. So we can also have x squared is a term. Now, I can also have 6x squared is a term. Now, a term can also be negative. That's one thing you must understand. So it's not necessary that terms will be positive always. So it means I can have minus a. Minus a is a term. So it also means that minus a squared is a term. And so on and so forth. Now let us go to what we refer to as constant value. Constant value. What is a constant value in a question when you talk about constant value? Constant value has to do with that particular number called C. As we go on, a complete quadratic equation supposed to be a combination of A, B, C. I'm going there. And that's the reason why I start with a term. And I'm going to constant value. Now, what do we mean by constant value? A constant value is a constant number that stays alone. It is neither a term nor an expression. Now, you might be wondering, what is an expression? I say we'll get there. Now, a constant value, you can give any number. Any value that stays on its own. Look, a constant can also be a fraction. It can also be in form of a fraction. So, constant value can be integers, negative numbers, and positive numbers. Now, let me show you something. When you talk about a constant value, we have 3 is a constant value because it's a number that stands on its own. It doesn't have a letter attached to it. That's why it's called a constant value. Now, minus 5 is a constant value. Are you following me? Now, 2 over 3 is a constant value, though a fraction. Though a fraction. That's going to be a topic for another time. You know, when you talk about a fraction, you are referring to the combination of a numerator and a denominator value. And we also say a fraction is a portion or a part of a whole number. And you know, remember, we have about 4 types of fraction. We have a proper fraction, an improper fraction, a whole number fraction, and a mixed number. This type now, you can see a bigger number carrying a smaller number. It means what type of fraction is this? It is a proper fraction. We say when a big number carries a smaller number, is a proper fraction. It's just like in a real sense, a father carrying a child is proper in mathematics. Mathematical wise is proper. But a child carrying a father is improper, mathematical wise. That's an improper. is an improper action. Now, what I'm trying to say, are you getting what I'm saying? Now, what I'm trying to say is 2 over 3 is also a constant value. And don't forget, pi is a constant because pi simply means 22 over 7. And 22 over 7 can also be expressed in decimal as 3.142. Is that clear? So pi is a constant. So etc. It goes on. Now, let me now explain expression. Now, expression is now the combination of a term and a constant. You must know that. Expression is the combination of a term and a constant. So we call it expression. So if you look at my first statement, which is x, let me have the second one here, plus 3, because this 3 is positive. Now, this is an expression, x plus 3. It's an expression because it's the combination of a variable. What is the variable? Your x. And what is your constant is plus 3. So this is an expression. Now, do you know that I can go on and on to join the second one? Oh yeah, what's the second one? We have 5y in the second row. And here in the second row, we have minus 5. This is an expression, 5y minus 5. Now, let's take this next row, x squared. Let's have today's. What's the next one here? Plus 2 over 3. This is an expression. And it goes on and on, etc. Now, let's go to equation. When you talk about equation, the difference between an expression and equation is simple. An equation is the continuity of an expression with an equality sign separating the expression from a constant value. That's it. There must be the right-hand side value and the left-hand side value. So for you to refer to as any statement as an equation, there must be an expression and there must be an equality sign. That equality sign qualifies the statement to be an equation. Let me give an example. We are going to continue from here. Look at this. You know, in the first expression, we have x plus 3. I can decide to put any equality sign and put any value, any constant value. Can you give me any constant value? Let's say 0. This is an equation. And whenever you are given an equation, you are expected to get the value of the unknown variable. You must know that. Now, this is x plus 3 equal to 0. It means we should get the value of x. But expression, you are not usually asked to find the value of the unknown. Maybe you might be asked to add them up, or you might be asked to subtract, you might be asked to multiply. Expressions, you don't look for the unknown variable. Unknown variable is when you are given an equation. And which type of equation is this? X plus 3 is a linear equation. You know, I started that time. I said there are types of equations. This is a linear equation. And I told you that linear equation is the same thing as simple equation. X plus 3 is a linear equation. Why is it a linear equation? Because the highest power is 1. The highest power of the unknown, don't forget, of the unknown. The unknown variable here is x. So the highest power is 1. So x power 1 plus 3. So long as the highest power of the unknown is 1, it refers to as linear equation. Now let's look at the second one. The second one here, we have 5y minus 5. Let me say equals to 3. This is a linear equation too. And don't forget, why it becomes an equation is because this one is when you stand the way I'm standing now, this is my left hand side, this is my right hand side. So this is LHS, your left hand side, and this is RHS. So in my first equation now, from the left hand side, I have x plus 3. That's the expression. Then we have a constant value in the right hand side to be 0. So the combination of this is linear equation. Now going to this now, the same thing. My left hand side, I have 5y minus 5. My right hand side, I have 3. But you know, equations are usually meant for you to look for the value of the unknown. What is the unknown variable here? Y. Then coming to the last one, let me combine the other one. And we have x squared plus 2 over 3. I can put equals to 6. Are you getting me? Sorry about the system here. Now, I can put equals to 6. This is an equation, but what type of equation is this? This is a quadratic equation. Why is it a quadratic? Because the highest degree of the unknown is 2. And one thing you must understand about mathematical terms is that whenever you have a linear equation which has power 1, it means you have one value for the unknown. So in this case now, x will have only one value. Now in this case now, 5y, y will have only one value. But since it hasn't a square, the unknown here, it means I'm going to get 2 values. If it adds 3, it means a polynomial. It means I'm going to be having 3 values. Like if I have x or maybe 4x power 3 plus 6x squared plus 4x minus 3 equal to 10. You know, this is a polynomial equation. So it means I'm going to be getting the value of x now will be how many? 3. If I did not bother to put the equality sign, if I clean the equality sign here, I will be having 4x power 3 plus 6x squared plus 4x minus 3. This is a polynomial expression, not equation, because there is no equality sign. Now, if I'm to solve this polynomial equation, I hope you know what it means. As you follow this channel, I will show you how to solve a polynomial equation. Maybe that should be our next episode. But remember, if you are to solve a polynomial equation, the rule is you use factor theorem, division theorem. You look for a value to substitute into this to get you 0. That's the first factor. You divide and so on. But that is not my focus today. My focus today is I want to show you, first of all, in this topic, how to complete an incomplete quadratic equation. Because, you know, the last year JAMB students, some of the students came to me and say, Mr. Oshoma, we in the hall, we are cross questions, like four questions that has to do with complete a quadratic equation. That's what I used to tell my friends. I used to tell my students. JAMB has no question anymore. They repeat, they recycle past questions. And that's the reason why you must be good at each topic. Just make sure you are good. Now, JAMB does not want you just to be good. You have to be extra good. And that's the essence of this channel. I will be bringing out secrets to you for you to understand how to pass mathematics with ease. Not just JAMB. Because if you can be able to pass JAMB, then WAEC and NECO mathematics become what? Become very simple. Because JAMB has tougher questions. Don't forget, they have tougher questions with simple answers. And their questions don't require calculator. So let's continue. So I'm able to explain to you now successfully the meaning of term, the meaning of constant, expression, and equation. Now, let us go to incomplete equation. That is going to be my emphasis today. But before I do that, I want to define a quadratic equation. Watch me. Now, when you talk about a quadratic equation, my viewers, a quadratic equation, for a quadratic equation to be complete, it must be the combination of A, B, and C. So it means that there are quadratic equations that are not complete. There are quadratic equations that are not complete. What is the formula of a complete quadratic equation? Look at it. It is ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Now, if you are asked to define a quadratic equation, how do you define a quadratic equation? Maybe I should help you. A quadratic equation can be defined as an equation that is written in form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Don't forget. I repeat, a quadratic equation can be defined as a equation that is written in form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a, b, and c are constants. Don't forget that. They must be constant. They are constant. Don't forget, I've just finished explaining the meaning of constants. You should know that. Now, and also, where a must not be equal to 0. Do you know why? If a becomes 0 here, 0 times anything gives 0. So it's no longer a quadratic. It will now become what? Bx plus c becomes linear equation. And that is the reason why they say in no case should a be 0. So because if a is 0, what makes this equation quadratic is this square. So by the time you put a to be 0, what now happens is that we are now going to be having 0x squared, which is the same thing as what? Nothing. Which is the same thing as 0. And in mathematics, when you say 0, it has no function. It has no function. But we are not saying when 0 is an answer, it's not acceptable. But 0, it has no function. That's the reason why in number line, we are meant to understand that it is 0 that separates between positive integers and negative integers. So that is what I want you to understand. This is the definition of a quadratic equation. Now, there are quadratic equations, for your information, where b will be missing and we only have c. There are some where c will be missing, we only have b. So that is what brings about incomplete quadratic equation. And that, do you know what is common in JAMB? Even in WAEC and NECO. They will give you an incomplete quadratic equation. You will be asked, what must be added to this quadratic equation to make it a perfect square? Now, I want you to get something today. If you are talking about imperfect quadratic equation, let me show you how it looks. It looks in form of ax squared plus bx equal to 0. This is an incomplete quadratic equation. What is missing? It is c. And now you need to get the value of c. When you get the value of c, it becomes a perfect square. Let me tell you, my audience, let me tell you, my viewers, listen attentively. Both teachers, mathematics teachers, I have seen a lot of mathematics teachers come to me to ask me, apart from the first method I'm going to be using today, is there any other method that can be used to solve or find an incomplete quadratic equation? I will be giving you today in this channel free of charge. Sometimes it takes teachers who have been teaching for more than 20 years. They don't know there is another method. Let me tell you. And that method is very, very short. Because any topic I deal with in this channel, I will make sure I give you more than one method. Please always remind me. I will always give you more than one method. Because in mathematics, there is no topic that is mandated to one method. Where every topic in mathematics, we have more than a method. So today, you will learn what you don't know. And that's the essence of this channel. I will be giving, look, don't say I'm good in mathematics. I'm good in mathematics. I don't need to learn any secret in mathematics. You are lying. Mathematics is something that when you, even if you have 1 minute with me, you are going to learn something different. Even if you are a professor of mathematics, you just have 1 minute with me, you will learn a new thing. Do you know why? 15 years of experience. I've been teaching maths and further maths all my life. So it means there are new things you are going to be learning in this channel. So all you need to do, subscribe and follow us. So as I said earlier, my main focus today is I want to show you how to complete an incomplete quadratic equation. Please, are you with me? Let's continue. I've told you an incomplete quadratic equation is in form of ax squared plus bx equals to 0. And you will be asked to find what must be added to make it a perfect square. It comes in two ways. If you are asked what must be added to make it a perfect square, it's the same question as what must be added to make it a complete square. But before I do that, remember we have 4 methods in solving quadratic equation. Let me list them. Before I do that, 4 methods in solving quadratic equation. Methods of solving quadratic equation. Please, don't be a mathematician by accident. Because you want to write JAMB, you begin to cram. You don't cram mathematics to know mathematics. Do you see me using any textbook? Do you see me using any material? I am solving this offhand. Do you know why? Because I never learned mathematics through cramming. You can never be good at mathematics through cramming. Do you understand? I have trained students in my life that compete in Cowpedia, Olympedia, and they did very, very well. In fact, I have trained students that came second. I don't want to mention year because I don't want to brag. But I'm telling you today that when it comes to mathematics, don't learn mathematics by cramming. You don't cram mathematics. Mathematics should be part of you. And that is the reason why my nickname, my other name is Funny Maths. I will bring mathematics in a funny way, but you will learn something different. So let's continue. As I told you earlier, I said we have method of solving quadratic equation. The first method that gave birth to all the other methods, for your information, is called completing square. Some of you don't know. Completing the square method. Completing the square method gave birth to any other method. It gave birth to formula method, formerly called almighty formula. But when we came to realize that you can't be calling a method almighty, it's only God that is almighty. Is that clear? When Nigerians become so much interested in mathematics, we produce people like Professor This Igbo man from the north, I think he must be Professor. As we go on, I will get the name. Are you getting me? You know, Nigerians are believers. They worship God a lot. They say, no, there shouldn't be anything like, the method shouldn't be almighty. Are you listening to me? That we should not call it almighty formula. We should call it what? General formula or formula method. Exactly. Chike Professor Chike the late Professor Chike I think his son also is now a professor too in mathematics. But one thing you must understand, these are the people that say, why would they be almighty formula? So they changed the name from almighty. We don't use almighty again. We now use what? We use general formula or formula method. And what is general? Remember, completely square give birth to general formula. What is that formula? I will show you everything as we continue. General formula. And another method, we have factorization method. I will tell you why all this formula leads to that as we go on. Factorization method. Another method, which is the last one, sorry, my number 4, is graphical method. Now, I want you to listen. Completing the square is easily used to complete a quadratic equation that is not complete. We pick some of the features of a quadratic completing the square, and I want you to listen very attentively. Because students, do you know what students do? They run away from completing the square method. Do you know why? It has 8 steps. They don't want to learn any of the steps. They will tell you this method is too long. In my life, I've never seen a method in mathematics that is long. When something is simple, you learn the simplicity and it's part of you. Don't believe that this method is long. It's the simplest. And yet students see it as what? As what? As the most difficult method. In fact, in schools, teachers, mathematics teachers run away from this method. If you ask them why, they will say students don't easily understand it. So I can't waste my time. But when you now get to the exam hall, the first thing you see is under the conditional questions. They will tell you, WAEC will tell you, using completing the square method, find the roots of a particular quadratic question. Find the values of a particular quadratic question. What do you do in that case? So that's the reason why you don't need to sideline methods. All you need to do, learn them and learn them well. This channel will be teaching you any topic we get into, any methods available in that topic. I will make sure Mr. Funny Maths explain them to you. So now look at something. I've mentioned the 4 methods we have. But you know, graphical method is a unique method. Do you know why I say it's a unique method? It is always given with a table, and you'll be asked to complete the table. It's not that you write a quiet question. If not, you waste your time in the hall. If exam want to bring a graphical method, they will bring a table like this. Let me show you. A table like this. They will break down the quadratic equation. Are you following me? And they will ask you to complete the table. Maybe the value of x is taken as 0, 1, 2, 3, depending. Are you understanding? And they will ask you. So as we go on, I'm going to explain that very, very clearly. So I've given you the 4 methods. And I said my emphasis today, I am not teaching any method. I am only trying, in this episode, I'm only trying to bring out something that makes students fail mathematics. Most of you watching me, you are good at all this method, but you are going to learn something today that you don't know before. I promise you, even if you are a lecturer, mathematics lecturer, even if you are a mathematics teacher, just watch me. Now, I have given you the 4 methods, right? Now, let's see something. What I want to show you now, I'm going to write an incomplete quadratic equation, and we'll be asked, just the way it comes from JAMB and WAEC, NECO, JAMB. They will write an incomplete quadratic question. They will ask you what must be added to it to make it a perfect square. In form of this, let me show you. Example. Don't forget the subtopic now is going to be what must be added to make a perfect or complete square. Don't mind my handwriting, but the subtopic is what must be added to make a perfect or complete square. Now, before I continue, What is a perfect square? Now, in mathematics, when we say something is perfect, what's a perfect number? Perfect numbers are numbers that have square roots. When I say have square root, what do I mean by have square root? There's no number that has no square root. But there are numbers whose square roots are rational, and there are numbers whose square roots are irrational. And that leads us to another topic, which we'll be discussing another day. That is surd. Now, when you talk about a rational number is any number that when you press the square root, or you find the square root, is going to give you what? A whole number. Irrational numbers are numbers that when you press the square root, or you find the square root, is going to give you a decimal number. And what JAMB do, JAMB, in as much as they are concerned, they always want to do away from decimal numbers because they know you are not allowed to use calculator. They always want to do, if they want to give you any decimal number, it should be multiplication you did in class 3, class 4, class 5. JAMB, I've seen a JAMB question that said 21.53 multiplied by 1.24 divided by, you understand? You use number log to solve such questions. You don't need calculator. Or you remove the decimal place and just find the express value and divide. But what I'm trying to tell you right now is that when you talk about a perfect number in mathematics, a perfect number is a number that has a square root of a whole number. What do we mean by that? You can, if you are asked to give a perfect number, let me show you how to give a perfect number. You can mention any number. Multiply the number by itself, the value becomes perfect. That's how it is. Let me take an example. 2. 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. 4 is a perfect number. You know why? The square root of 4 gives 2. Now, let's take another number. 9 times 9. Okay, let me say 3 times 3. 3 times 3 gives 9. So 9 is a perfect number. And because the square root of 9 gives what? 3. So these are the things you must understand. Now, finally, let's look at 1. I don't want you to forget something. 1 is always a perfect number. Because 1 times 1 gives 1, and the square root of 1 gives 1. So sometimes if we're asked to mention perfect numbers, some people run away from 1. 1 is a perfect number. Just the way I was telling my student the other day, you know, in my JAMB class, somebody was telling me, those students that are already in university today, they said they saw a question. You know, why JAMB sometimes in mathematics can even go ahead to give you class 2 questions is because they know that you might have forgotten them. Imagine somebody doesn't know prime number. You don't know prime number, you don't know odd number, you don't know even numbers. Don't expect to do well in JAMB. Do you know why? There is a topic in JAMB they don't joke with, which is set theory. And in set theory, when it comes to the special aspects, is that clear? Where you are asked to find the values yourself, you must know what a prime number is, an odd number, and an even number, perfect numbers. Before I continue, remember, prime numbers are numbers. Now listen, prime numbers are numbers that no any other number can divide or multiply except itself and 1. But 1 is not a prime number. Except itself and 1. But 1 is not a prime number. You must know that. The least prime number starts from 2. So the least prime number on earth is 2, not 1. Some people say 1. 1 is not a prime number. So let me mention prime numbers. We have 2, we have 3, we have 5, we have 7. Don't go and bring 9. 9 is not a prime number because 3 times 3 gives 9. We have 11, we have 13, we have 17, we have 19, we have 23, etc. and so on. These are prime numbers. Should I repeat the definition of a prime number? A prime number is a number that no any other number can multiply. No any other number can divide except itself and 1. But 1 is not a prime number. Now, in between prime number and odd number, we have even numbers. Even numbers are simple to identify. Even numbers are numbers that are divisible by 2, or numbers that can divide 2 and give you a whole remainder. A whole remainder. When we say a whole remainder, you should understand what we're saying. The remainders are whole numbers. We don't have decimal numbers. So it means the least prime even number on earth is still what? 2. You can see there's a relationship between prime number and even number here. So the least even number is 2. 2 plus 2, 4 plus 2, 6 plus 2, 8 plus 2, 10, and so on. And there are rules for divisibility. Any number that ends with 0 is an even number. Any number that ends with 2 is an even number. Any number that ends with 4. So any number that are even numbers, you must understand that these numbers I mentioned, any value that ends with 2, 4, 6, 8, and 0. Not 10. 0. They are all even numbers because they can divide 2 without a remainder more than that. Then, the last aspect I want to bring you before we go back to our business that you are supposed to learn today. Do you know what I want to show you? I want to show you odd numbers. Sorry I'm taking your time, but I have to tell you this because some of us watching, we don't know. Some of us are in universities already, polytechnics, higher institutions. We don't know the difference between these numbers. And that is why before I started this, I say mathematics is a repetition. It's a continuity. Now, it's a repetition in the sense that imagine prime numbers you did in class 2. You are going to meet them in WAEC, SS3. Isn't that funny? That's why maths is fun. So now, odd numbers. What are odd numbers? Odd numbers are numbers. Are you listening to me? That cannot be divided by 2. They are not multiples of 2. That is when you find 1. So 1 only falls in whole numbers. So please, 1 plus 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and so on and so forth. So please, these are what I want you to understand before I go into this. So you know perfect numbers now. Perfect numbers are numbers that are what? That has a square root of a whole number. And don't forget, perfect number is the same thing as complete number. Don't be confused. A complete number. When they say a complete number, they mean a number that has a square root. It's a rational number. So let's continue. I want to now show you before we go into sequence and series. Because in sequence and series, it's not a topic you play with. I'm going to be giving you secret today that even if they wake you from sleep, are you listening to me? You can be able, because in sequence and series, if you cannot interpret the question or the statement, you can never solve it. I tell my students. But after this, you get something. But let me quickly show you how to complete a quadratic equation using 2 methods. You might be very good at one method before, but today you will learn a method. And do you know the funny part? If there is any textbook at all you have across that will teach you this second method, the way I'm going to teach it, please put it in the comment section. You can never see it. It's a secret I'm going to reveal today. Even if there is a textbook that have across 1, they only give the coefficient of 1. I will be explaining these things extensively now. So watch me and see why we say math is fun. Now, let's look at this question for instance. Example 1. Example 1. They said, what must be added to 3x squared plus 4x to make it a perfect square? A perfect square. Please, I want you to write this question before, because if I'm solving it now, I might clean the board. My viewers, write this question. What must be added to 3x squared plus 4x to make it a perfect square? Now listen, I'll be taking 3 examples in this topic. We are done. We are done. And if there is any question you cannot solve after this, please, make sure you post such questions in our comment section. In my next class, I will be attending to such questions. You can inbox us directly. Is that clear? You inbox us. I will give you the solutions to them. So now, look at this. We are told that, we are asked that what must be added to 3x squared plus 4x to make it a perfect square. There are 2 ways to solve it. And that's the reason I'm telling you that completing the square method is the overall method. Is the father of other methods. Because there is no any other method you can use here except the completing the square method. We are not using it completely, but we are bringing out some segments of the formula, of the process rather. Because I told you it has 8 steps. Try to watch my next episode. You will see the steps. I will analyze the 8 steps that involve complete the square method. Because one thing you must understand in mathematics is you can't run from a topic. If you don't understand the topic, try to learn it. Because if you run now that you are writing JAMB, or you run now that you are writing WAEC and NECO, you must across it in the university. So why running? All you need to do, look for channel like this, learn them. When you learn them, it's forever. I have learned this topic 22 years ago. Imagine, it's still upstairs. You can see the way I'm teaching it. I've been teaching this topic for 15 years. And that's why I want you to learn something different today. Look at what I'm going to do. What must be added to 3x squared plus 4x to make it a perfect square? We want to solve. Every question need what? Solution. If I ask you, every question need what? You must answer me and say solution. So wherever you are, in your room, in the class, wherever you find yourself watching this video, every question needs solution. Who says so? Funny maths. Look at it. Now, the question is 3x squared plus 4x. Please listen attentively. 3x squared plus 4x. Now, by the rule or the standard set, this is my A, this is my B. What is missing is C. Don't forget. What is missing is C. This is my A, this is my B. What is missing is C. And it is that C that we need to get, and it makes this equation a complete equation or complete square. And I want to give you a secret today. Any value you get at the end of the day, are you listening to me? Is going to be a constant value. Remember, because this is A, B. What is missing is C. So I want to use the first method. I want to clean this side, please. I hope you have written this. So I want to solve it up here. I want to have the question down there. So look at it. If you are given a question like this, look at it. 3x squared plus 4x. What you do using the first method, using method 1. The rule says we use b squared must be equals to 4ac. That's the formula we are going to adopt here. You know why? Because this is an equation this is an expression that is not complete. It's an incomplete expression, but a quadratic expression, mind you, because it has no equality sign. That's why I'm calling this expression. I've explained this earlier. So, and I'm going to use b squared equals to 4ac. For those of us that understand general formula, this is a segment of general formula. If you remember general formula, let me quickly write it, that formula method. The formula method says you are looking for an unknown. What is the unknown here? X. Is x equals to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This is the formula we refer to as general formula that I wrote as the third formula method the other time before I started this topic. This is the formula. So from this formula now, can you see what happened? They pick the inside one with the square root. That is what they brought here. The reason is because this is not complete. So this is the formula we are using. But they didn't lift it directly. What they did is that b squared minus 4ac equal to 0. They make b squared the subject of this formula. And you know, making b squared the subject, I'm going to have b squared equals to this negative. Coming to this side become positive. Please take note of that. That's what they did. So this is the formula we use for equations that are not complete. So let us see the answer to this question. Let's see the answer to this question. Viewers, let's see the answer to this. So what it means, I hope I'm free to clean this question now. Let me clean so that we'll have more space. Okay, now let's watch how we are going to do this. So from this equation, from this expression, we have 3x squared plus 4x. How do we do it? Let me write the expression. 3x squared plus 4x. What it means is that this is my A and this is my B. My A, the coefficient of my A is what? 3. And the coefficient of my B is what? Plus 4, or you say 4. All together? So what we are now going to do, we substitute these values into this equation. Don't forget, this is the standard equation for an incomplete square. So what do we now do? We have b squared. What's my b in this case? 4. You say 4 squared equals to, what's my 4? 4 is constant. You write a 4. Bracket of, what's my a? My a is 3. And c is what I'm looking for. So I'm not going to write anything for c. C is what makes it not to be complete. So 4 squared gives me 4 times 4. Because 4 squared means 4 in how many fold? 2. So don't forget that in indices. Remember, 3 raised to power 4 means 3 in how many fold? 4 folds. That is, you are going to separate them by what? Multiplication. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which gives 81. These are some of the things you must understand. Okay, now 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times C give me 12C. Remember, I'm looking for C. I'm going to divide both sides by the coefficient of C. That's why when we started this topic, I was trying to explain to you the meaning of coefficient. So coefficient simply means the number, the constant number that stands with the variable. So in this case, now what do? 4 times 4 gives what? 16. Equals to 12C. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Now, I'll divide both sides by the coefficient of C, which is 12. 12. 12. So I now have 16 over 12 equals to, when this cancels this, equals to C. That means 12 over 6, 16 over 12 equals to C. It still means that my C is equals to what? 16 over 12. Do you know I can break this down? I can reduce it to the lowest term. So 4 can go here 4 times. 4 can go here 3 times. So I'm going to now be having what? Therefore, my C will now be 4 over 3, which is the same thing as one whole number 1 over 3. This is what I'm going to add to this equation to make it a perfect square. That's what it means. So I want you to take note of that. Very important. So you now come to the bottom part and say, therefore, 4 over 3 must be added to make it a perfect square. Please take note of that. It's very important. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I want to show you the second method that is not common. That method is not common. We don't see textbook, we don't see authors explaining that method. And that method is recognized. That method is what? It's recognized. So let me show you that method in case you don't want to use formula. So let's see what we're going to do. So I want you to go through this because I'm going to be cleaning the board for that method. So don't forget, this is our A, this is our B. And what we did, we substitute the value into B squared equals to 4AC. Then our A is 3, our B is 4. So don't forget that. I want you to be very, very observeful as I'm solving, and that's the reason why I'm not rushing it. So my final answer is C. So I want to use the second method. So permit me to clean this side. So now, what we do now is that I want to use the second method, using method 2. I hope you are ready for method 2. Using method 2. Now, the method says we have 3x squared plus 4x. Don't forget, if you want to use this method, the first thing you do, you divide through, which is still a process or a step involving completing the square. You know, in completing the square, the second method, the second method, after rewriting, bringing the constant to the right hand side, it said we should divide through by the coefficient of the quadratic term. So that's what we'll do here. So the first step is that step 1. We are going to divide through by x squared's coefficient. That is the coefficient of the quadratic term. So what that means is that 3x squared plus 4x divide both sides by 3. This cancels this. So what we now have is x squared plus 4x over 3. I hope we are all getting it. So as we're saying, the value we have here is x squared, remember, plus 4x over 3. This is what we have. So this is the step 1. Then step 2, using this method, step 2, we are going to multiply our b now. You know, our new b now is 4 over 3. The coefficient of our b now is 4 over 3. We multiply by half and square it. And this same step is repeated when you are using completing the square method. In our next episode, I'll be showing you that. So step 2, now what you need to do, the value you have here is what? 4/3. You multiply it by what? Half. Some of us might be asking, why are we multiplying by half? Yes, that's the step. I think that's the third or fourth step in complete square method. It's a must. That's the process. When you get your B, in complete square method, if it is formula method, other method, this is your A and your B originally. But when you are using complete square method, it says this is not your B originally until you divide through and make every terms equal. How do you make every terms equal? By dividing through by the coefficient of the quadratic term. So that is what I did here. The coefficient of the quadratic term here is 3. So I divide through by 3. So this is when we can now say this is A, now this is our B. This is our new A. Our new A must be 1. That is what this method is saying. Our new A must always be 1. Then our new B will be our former B divided by the coefficient of our former A, which is, so in this case now, my B now is what? Is 4/3. So it means this step is saying B times half square. This is what the step is saying. We should B multiplied by half square. And that's what I'm doing here. My B now is 4/3, no longer 4. Then times half. Half is from the formula. Then you do what? You square. So what is the answer here now? 4 times 1 give me 4. 3 times 2 give me 6. Then I now do what? I square. So what's the meaning of square? That's 4 times 4 all over 6 times 6. I will now be having 4 times 4 is 16. And 6 times 6 is what? 36. I know I can still simplify this further. But for now, since I am not getting the final, I'm going to the last step. I will do that later. Permit me to clean the last side to get my final result to this question. So step 3, which is the last step now. This step is where no textbooks explain. Some students will stop here. They say this is your final result. In fact, 90% of JAMB students, WAEC students, NECO students, this is where they stop. They like this method, but they stop here. But that's not the end of your result. Because any method you apply, you must get the same result. Remember, my first result was 4/3. When I apply B square equals to 4AC. That is exactly what I'm supposed to get here. If I break this down, I will not get 4/3. So the next thing you do now is that the rule now says step 3. This your value gotten here, which is 16/36. You must multiply it now, which is the last step, by your original A. What's our original A? Our original A is what? Is 3. So don't forget that. You multiply by your original A. So doing that, I'm going to now have 16/36 times, what's my original A here? 3. So 3 here now, 1. 3 here now, 12. I will now be having what? 16/12. You can see, I get the same answer with the first method. Now, doing this, now what happened? I can break this down. Which number? 4 here, 4. 4 here, 3. That's all. So the step that is always missing, that why people are running away from this method, is this last step 3. They always end at step 1. The reason is because most textbooks, they don't explain examples that has to do with more than one coefficient in the quadratic term. They usually use x squared, s squared, p squared, t squared. They don't give us. So students are confused. Because when I don't have 3 here, and I solve like this, I'm actually going to stop here. Because if I multiply anything by 1, will give me that thing. So that's why they normally think they stop here. So I think this channel will be the first channel to explain this to the world. You don't stop here because the coefficient here is more than 1. So this is 3. That's why your final result will be multiplied by 3. So we have 4/3. And I hope you know 4/3 is an improper fraction. A smaller number cannot carry a bigger number. That's why we always convert it to a mixed number, which is wild number 1/3. You can see we get the same answer with the first method. So therefore, one odd number 1/3 or 4/3, as the case might be, must what? Must be added. Must be added to make it a perfect square or complete square. That is where we round up for today's class. I think because of time, I say 60 minutes with you, I want to keep it. So I want to believe that what you have learned today is more valuable than what you have before, especially in this method. What I've taught you now, this is how you solve questions that has to do with completing the square of any quadratic expression. Please don't forget, in my next episode, I'll be giving you secrets on AP and GP and more of it. And don't forget to always subscribe to our channel. And as you do that, every day we'll be having a video to show you different topics. Before JAMB, we must have covered all the topics. Follow us up, subscribe, and we wish you all the best. Distinction in your JAMB, distinction in your WAEC, distinction in your NECO is what Mr. Oshoma wishes you in conjunction with IDC Training Center. Love you guys.